Folks, this is the True American Podcast. I'm your host. We have with us a great friend of the show, brilliant brother. And, man, I don't care if you agree with him, disagree with him. You need to hear him. You need to understand him because he educates. Every time you open his mouth, he's educating folk. He's giving you important information. And then he also has some good news to share with us today. Brother John, I call him Brother John. I hope that's okay for him, but I call him Brother John.
Good for me.
And then we're also we're going to post his website there so that people can get in touch with him, learn more about him, and learn how they can support him. Because if you listen to the other interviews I've done of him, if you're a true patriot, your attitude's going to be, hey, what more can I do to support this brother? Brother, you got some good news to share with us first. What is that good news?
Yes, sir. I stood for primary election for the Kentucky House of Representatives, District 36. There were two other guys in the race. It was pretty hotly contested. Probably close to $250,000 expended between the three of us and a couple of other groups. And I prevailed in that three-way race, 48 to 35 to 17. And
Wow.
I was the lowest spender of the three of us and got the most votes by far. So I think that's a testament to the fact that the values that I was advocating are what resonated with the voters in District 36.
Right.
Those values centered around faith, family, and freedom, and just getting the government out of our lives so that we can enjoy the freedoms and rights God gave us.
And speaking to my listeners, go to my website, booktalkwithcorbin.com, and you'll see my other interviews with Brother John when he talks about what he means by what he says about values and etc. But brother, today I want to talk to you about business.
Yeah.
I approached you. I wanted you back on the show. I threw a couple of subjects at you, and you said, "Hey, I want to talk about this business situation." And so we're going to talk about that. Business in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and I say the Commonwealth in Kentucky, even though you're repping District 36. You've always come off to me as, hey, I'm about Kentucky, period. Yes,
right.
I'm going to represent my district. Yes, I'm going to do everything I can do for my district, but I'm also all about the Commonwealth of Kentucky, period. Is that accurate?
It's accurate. It's like we're all in a big boat, and you can't claim the leak is in somebody else's part of the boat. Because if the boat goes down, we're all going to sink.
Okay.
If the boat floats, we'll all do well. So, yeah.
So
we need the whole well.
One thing you brought up is, and I'm going to try to put this all at one point. What we need in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we need more of in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, is a workforce that's sober, that's using your word, a workforce that shows up, and a workforce that's willing to be trained or can be trained.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I guess to start off with an alarming statistic, Kentucky is at the bottom of the nation. I think we're duking it out with West Virginia for last place in what they call workforce participation. And that's the percent of the working age workforce, let's say that's 18 to 65, somewhere thereabouts, that get up every day and go to work or are looking for work. 20 years ago, that was about 63%. We've been down as low as 56% in the last year. And that's of the working age population. Of our total population, less than half of Kentuckians get up every day and go to a job. So that means that half of us are supporting the other half in one way or another, either through familial support or through our tax dollars. So that's an alarming statistic. And it's not uniform across Kentucky. In the very industrious Boone County up north, in northern Kentucky, their workforce participation rate is 70%. They're growing fast. They're economically prosperous.
Wow.
In Elliott County, it's 28%. So that's a huge disparity. There's a lot of poverty and joblessness in the east, due to the decline of coal mining and things of that nature. Yeah. But we have got to get Kentucky back to work. I have a lot of friends that are in small business, and I talk to them. I see the signs up everywhere I go. Help wanted.
Yes.
Anywhere from waiting tables to farm labor, baling hay, things like that. You just can't find people to work. And I've had friends that had a very entry-level job that pretty much any 16-year-old ought to be able to handle, working the cash register at a fast food restaurant and taking people's orders and making change. And he's had people that were coming in with a high school degree that couldn't do basic math and make change for somebody, and would just get discouraged after the first or second day and just give up and quit, not ever come back.
Wow.
And so, the first step is showing up for work, and that's a great first step. And a lot of people can't get there. Close to 45% of our population doesn't get there every day in terms of showing up for work. Second thing is, when you show up, you got to show up sober. We've got massive substance abuse problems in this state. Some of them are debilitating, some of them are just recreational, but there are people that are using alcohol and drugs before work. It's not a safe situation. You shouldn't be operating heavy equipment. You shouldn't be doing things that can endanger others. If your mental faculties are not sharp. A lot of jobs do require drug testing, and your habitual use of drugs and alcohol anywhere close to work time will knock you out of some of the very lucrative employment opportunities, like, for instance, at UPS, where you can get a high rate of pay, and as well as get your college paid for. A negative drug test will knock you out there. And the third thing, and this is the thing we can do the most about as citizens involved in government, and that's a workforce that is willing or able to be trained. We have some people that have been so poorly prepared in school that they are really not able to be trained. They don't have the basic skills that we should have acquired by third grade, which are being able to read, write, and do arithmetic. And I'm not talking about calculus. I'm talking about, somebody buys something for 65 cents and you have to give them change for $1. It's not that complex. Wow. When I was growing up, a third grader could do that. You got to be able to read the sign. You got to be able to write. And we have high school graduates that can't do that. So that's kind of an entry point for training. You say, hey, here's your new job, Corbin. We're going to send you a link, and there's a great training PowerPoint, and you can read all about it. But if you can't read, you can't be trained for the job.
Right.
And if you statistics show that if you can't read by the end of third grade, beginning of fourth grade, your chances of being incarcerated are greater than your chances of being employed.
Yes.
And that's a generational tragedy. It gives people no hope for a future. And we've got to intervene in the lives of some of these young kids and get them into a situation where they can learn how to read and write. Because that's up until third grade, you're learning how to read. After that, you're reading to learn. The ability to read dictates your ability to be trained for a job, your ability to learn.
Let me stop you there. I want you to restate that again. Up to a particular point, you're learning how to read, and then after a particular point, you're reading to learn.
Yeah, and that pivot point is right around third grade. Happens earlier or later for some kids, but third grade seems to be the statistical inflection. That you're mature enough, your brain's mature enough, you should have been able to learn to read by that point. And then from fourth grade on, everything you're doing in school, you're reading to learn. Yes. And it's even more important when you've got some of this remote learning or distance learning. People can send you a PowerPoint. They can send you a book. They can send you a website. If you can't read, you can't teach yourself. Right. And if you can read, the world is wide open to you.
Yes.
You can learn so many things on your own. So we got to have a workforce that shows up. We got to have a workforce that's sober. We got to have a workforce that is able to be trained. And there's another component with that able to be trained. You got to be willing to be trained. Some of my friends in the business community say they'll get kids show up sober to work, and they have the intellectual ability to be trained, but they're not willing to be trained because it turns out you might have to sweat on this job, or you might have to stand on your feet for a while, or it's boring, or something of that nature, and they're just not willing to go through the physical difficulty necessary to get trained in a job. Work's not always pleasant. I was out the last couple of days in the heat, working around my farmstead, chopping wood, weeding the garden. It's hot, it's sweaty, the bugs bite you. Yeah. That's why they call it work. And we've got, I started doing that kind of thing when I was 5 or 6 years old, and a lot of people have been in an air-conditioned house playing video games their whole life, and they're not willing to be trained. But that part is really up to the parents and up to the individual.
And isn't that also, he says up to the individuals, up to the parents, and so are some of us parents, are we missing the whole question of teaching our children character?
I certainly think so. I mean, I was raised by two World War II veterans. They believed in hard work.
Yes.
I was out growing a garden when I was 5 years old. Helped with chores around the house. But I watched my parents model that. They both grew. Part of the food that we ate. My dad got up and went to work every day. My mother had some part-time employment involved in the community. So they modeled that, and I grew up expecting to work. And I was working pretty steady from the time I was about 14 on,
right,
at various capacities, and for more than 40 years. And a lot of people were. I wasn't all that unique. Certainly by the time people wanted to get a car, it's like, well, I got to get a job to get a car.
Exactly.
And,
right.
That was what propelled a lot of us. If you wanted to go out with a girl on Saturday night, you had to have a car. If you wanted a car, you had to have jobs.
There you go. There you go, brother. Yeah. Well, you bring back some memories now, man. We need to go on to the next point. Brother, you said here, streamline business regulations. Are you insinuating that somehow or another government is sort of being a little bit of a burden on small businesses?
Yeah, can you imagine that? Yes, I think particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, the government has become very burdensome on business. And government has actually created the labor shortages in the last couple of years by mandating things like mask wearing and vaccination. And this is in various industries, but particularly things like airline pilots and people in skilled positions that were in nursing and things like that were towards the latter years of their career, but they're going to work 4 or 5 more years. And they said, you know what? I'm not going to get forced to work like this. I'm not going to get forced to take a vaccination against my will. I'm just going to quit. And so those government regulations caused a huge exodus in the workforce of skilled nursing professionals and airline pilots. And you can see we're still experiencing ramifications from that in our business community. And those are professions that make other professions possible. You can't find truck drivers, for instance, over the road truck drivers,
right?
At any price. And they had problems getting in and out of countries without a vaccine passport. And people were just not going to take that infringement of their personal freedom. So they just quit. They just dropped out of the workforce, or they went and did something else. And we don't have the people coming along behind them to replace all those truck drivers.
Yes.
And believe me, over the road truck drivers are what makes American commerce float.
Yes.
We've got trains, we've got airplanes, but so much of it is in all the diesel trucks everywhere. And if the stuff doesn't get there, you get these supply chain problems we talked about. So those are 2 very obvious business regulations, but some very small changes. Some companies have said, well, gosh, I'll run my own CDL school, my own commercial driver's license school, and train truck drivers myself. But a little tweak in the regulations made that impossible for some local companies. And, denying people the ability to even fix the problem that government caused. So that's some legislation I hope to pass next year when business owners bring to my attention job killing, economy killing government regulation. That's for not a good reason. I think we need to get rid of it.
So you're putting something together where business folks can come to you and say, hey, look, this is an issue. This is a problem. So how can they reach you? How can some business people reach you to do that?
Yeah, you can put my website up there, www.hodgson4ky.com, HODGSON, the number 4ky.com. Got contact info on there, but I want to form a business roundtable, particularly here in my district in Eastern Jefferson County, and get small business people to tell me what it is that's preventing them from being successful and creating jobs. I have friends on the national level with a group called Job Creators Network. That the man who was the founder of Home Depot, who's worth several $1 billion, he decided in his 80s to found this organization. And Job Creators Network is trying to do that on the national level to remove job killing and business killing regulations.
This is remarkable for me to hear, because many times when I hear from groups like, different groups, like the National Urban League, how they want the government to do more as far as creating jobs, the government doing this as far as creating jobs or job training. And yet what I'm hearing from you and really what you're hearing from actual job creators is that, no, you just need to get out of our way. We will create jobs. We will do that. Am I getting this right?
yes, you are right. And I think there is one more area of job killing regulation we didn't touch on, and that's the government incentivizing people not to work.
Mm.
During the COVID problem, it became readily apparent that it was much more profitable to stay home and collect your unemployment and the government COVID premium than it was to go to work. So people found themselves, if they're running a restaurant, they're bidding against the government for someone's services. And people will literally tell their employers, I can't come back to work for you. It's going to cost me $500 a week. So the state and the federal government were paying them so much to stay at home they couldn't come to work. And people were wanting to get COVID. They were wanting to test negative. They're wanting to, rat out their, fellow employees that, might have had a transmissible case because they wanted to not be able to go back to work. And, this was not a public health question. This is a question of personal economics. People were making so much extra money. I've got personal friends that told me this. They were making, in some cases, double or even triple what they were making working by staying at home. Because they had the federal payout, they had the state payout, they had other things that entered into it. And work is a habit, like we said in the beginning, work's not necessarily fun. It's something you do to, earn your food in this world. Right. And you get out of the habit of working and you don't really want to go back when it becomes available.
Right.
And,
it's just, just like it's just really human nature. I mean, I have to admit, if somebody was to pay me triple what I'm making right now, and I'd not have to. I mean, I'm sorry, brother. I'd be home.
Yeah. I mean, when you government incentivizes the wrong thing, guess what happens?
Yeah.
The wrong thing happens. So that's the biggest job killer. And if you look at the graph of our workforce participation rate in Kentucky, the biggest drop that we had was right when Andy Beshear implemented those payments. So people said, don't worry about going to work. You just stay home. We'll pay you unemployment. And of course, followed by the crisis of his own making, where some 400,000 people didn't get the unemployment they were promised. And this was absolutely ruinous to some people like they're in business for themselves, let's say nail salons, hairdressers, barbers, things like that didn't work and never got the promised unemployment benefits, and nobody would even answer the phone or their email. So that created a whole daisy chain of disastrous effects in their life, not being able to pay their bills. And so,
okay. Folks, this is the True American Podcast. I'm your host. We're speaking today with Brother John. He's now representing District 36. Go to his website, check out some of the things he's doing. He's doing some really exciting work as far as helping businesses, small businesses, and all throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I don't care where you are. If you're a business person, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to be in touch with this person. If you're anywhere in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, business owner, entrepreneur, you need to be in touch with Brother John, because he's all about lifting up everybody. And the key ways of doing that is we have to have, as you put it, job creators. I mean, and who are they? Those are the entrepreneurs. Those are small business owners. Those are business owners. We got to sort of step out of the way a little bit, stop putting all these burdens on them, so that they can do what they do best, and so that everybody can benefit. We're going to spend the last couple of minutes here talking about something that I think is a pretty sensitive issue, at least here in Jefferson County, and that is the public school system. It appears as if the public school system is failing our students, and in failing our students, failing our families, it's failing the whole Commonwealth. You like to comment about that a little bit? I think you said here schools producing qualified workers, or people qualified to do work.
Yeah, there are some students coming out of our public schools that are college ready, and they're doing well. A lot of times they're coming out of the better programs in the magnet schools, but the majority are not coming out ready for college or trade school. A lot of them don't have some of the basic skills and the ability to read, write, and do arithmetic. Like I say, that's not 12th grade stuff. That's almost third and fourth grade kind of skill levels. And we've got significant numbers of people that have not had enough education in order to hold a job or even be trained for a job. And that's a massive problem. That creates generational poverty when you Can't do that. Then if you become a parent yourself, you're not in a position to help your child get trained. So we have got to do better with education. We have to have a massive push to create literacy by fourth grade. There's an enormous gap in our schools right now. It's not a question of money. We're spending in excess of $18,000 per student in Jefferson County Public Schools. I believe the budget for Jefferson County Public Schools has hit $2 billion a year.
Wow.
It's twice what the rest of Jefferson County is. They just raised our taxes by another 9%, and there's not a lot of accountability for that product. There's some teachers working pretty hard out there and probably not getting compensated enough, but there are hundreds and hundreds of non-teaching employees that make six-figure salaries, various types of bureaucrats, and we're not teaching kids reading, writing, and arithmetic. We're teaching them novel social theories and just not hard educational facts. We're teaching them about other things, and we've had other discussions about those things that they're teaching, but we've got to get down to in the classroom. We're just teaching the facts: reading, writing, arithmetic, basic civics, things that you have to function out there in the world,
right?
And have a job.
Well,
and we've got to do better by our kids.
And that's really pretty common sense. And not only is it common sense, but don't you think that's nonpartisan as well?
I think it absolutely is. And you'll find that the desire among parents to really get their kids into a good educational situation cuts across all economic levels, especially in Jefferson County. We did get legislation passed this year to allow charter schools in Kentucky, at least two of them. One will be in West Louisville and one, I think, in northern Kentucky somewhere.
Wow.
They're still working on details and funding for that, but that's step one. I firmly believe that state education dollars need to follow the student to their school of choice, wherever that is. It should not be if the government deems that you're at a poverty level and they give you food stamps, they don't tell you can only spend your food stamps at Walmart or you can only spend them at Kroger.
Right.
You go over wherever you think you're going to get the best deal for food. It should be the same way with education dollars. Those education dollars should follow the student to their choice or their parents' choice of educational establishment, be that public, private, charter, homeschool, other kinds of alternative education, even online, trade school.
Well, that sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, that sounds
free
pretty.
Market. Well, you look at it even in when government gives grants for kids to go to preschool or go to college, those grants do not have any strings on them about where you can spend that money. You can go to any institution of your choice. It's only in K through 12 does it say these tax dollars, which add up to $18,000 a year per student or more in Jefferson County, have to be spent at JCPS. It's a monopoly power that's not appropriate. And if you're the monopoly power and you're continually raising the taxpayer's rate and you're got a declining educational product and no accountability, there's a problem. I hope we'll see dramatic changes in the Jefferson County School Board this year. 4 of the 7 seats are up for election.
Right. Well, brother, as usual, another college course. I feel like I'm back at Berea College, man, and with my better professors, I oftentimes didn't do well in their class because I was so intent on listening. I just wouldn't take notes. I was just, they were just filling my head with information and knowledge. I'd forget to take notes, and I wouldn't do well in the test. But boy, I tell you, they were my favorite professors. I mean, they were my absolute favorite professors. So I walked out with just a storehouse of knowledge, and that's just what you are, brother. You're just a college professor, period, man. And I want to urge people, please go to this brother's website. Please be in touch with him. You are a business person, entrepreneur, contact him. And then, two, it sounds like to me, a lot of parents who are concerned about their child's education, K through 12, they probably should be in contact with you as well. Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah. I'll be glad to, point them in the right direction of some groups that are really working to create educational choice for them.
Yes.
I'm not an educator myself. My wife was a career teacher, but I have a lot of people in the educational choice movement that are trying to improve those learning outcomes for our kids.
Yes.
But the number one target being literacy by 4th grade. If you take away nothing else, just remember that you got to be able to read by 4th grade, or statistically your life is not going to be turning out well.
Great. Literacy by 4th grade. Brother, thank you again. Let's do
You
this
bet.
again
Always a pleasure
sometime.
talking to you. Thanks so much, Corbin.
You bet, brother. Thank you.